And the publishing date on this item is August 2011, correct?
43.
That's correct.
Says what?
It says, you fucked up what you told my attorney the next day.
Okay. Then page 54. Says what?
Interview was excellent, must talk ASAP.
And 56 says what?
Get down here ASAP and see me before you talk to them again and before.
Doesn't seem to make much sense, but let me mark an exhibit for you. Take a look at exhibit 468. This contains the pages and what was written on them, doesn't it?
This is going to be really interesting to see how she manages the fact that she was
And if you need the book, let me know.
trying to be, smooth and communicate without anybody knowing what she was saying.
Yes.
Welcome, Blue. Good to see you.
Look for the admission of exhibit 468.
She's out
In
of her
summary, this is what
worst personality
This is
disorder
how
characteristics
correct
I've ever
it is.
seen.
That's correct.
let's take a look at the Star magazine, which is exhibit 466. And this is
And right now, Nermi's sitting there going, damn, I hate this girl.
addressed to you, correct?
Yes.
And the date? You see that February 6, 2012?
I see July 25th, 2011 up in the corner and February 6th, 2012 there.
If we go to page 82, because if we look at this exhibit number 468, what is written here doesn't seem to make sense, correct?
Not offhand, no.
She looks really curious, doesn't she?
66. There are some numbers at the bottom of that, and they're in pencil, aren't they?
Yes.
And what are those numbers, man?
My understanding is that they're page numbers.
That may be your understanding, but what are the numbers?
Oh, I'm sorry. 43, 40, 56, 20, 37, 54.
Okay.
She's using codes. Isn't that cute?
Range. 468. According to those numbers, man.
It's so crazy.
469.
But see, this is more evidence that she believes she's so much smarter than anybody else.
Have those statements in the order as set out in the Star magazine.
It's so cute. It's like a little code.
Yes.
So do you think she looks embarrassed? Oh, the jury hated her too. Her own defense attorney despised her. I mean, he said in his book, I hated her.
469 is admitted.
Take a look at it. Read it, please.
You fucked up. What you told my attorney next day directly contradicts what I've been saying for over a year.
Oh,
Get
wow.
down here ASAP and see me before you talk to them again and before you testify so we can fix this. Interview was excellent. Must talk ASAP.
Wow.
Ma'am, this was written in these two magazines 4 days, when you attempted to transfer them, 4 days before a hearing on August 8th of 2011, correct?
I don't know when they were written.
Well, this magazine,
You smug
our
heifer.
magazine, as well as the photography magazine, you attempted to transfer those back
Jo-
on August 4th, 4 days before this hearing, right?
Just the magazines, yes.
And I know you keep saying just the magazines. The magazines have your name on them, correct?
Yes, I'm only allowed to release my own property.
Ma'am, I understand that, but those magazines have your name on them, right?
Yes,
And those magazines were in your possession on August 4th of 2011, right?
yes.
Okay, listen, y'all. So you hear me laughing, okay? And the reason that I laugh, I do have a bit of desensitization, right? I encountered these people, and it's really predictable, their pattern of communication. And so what you're seeing when she adds in these adjectives, she'll add an extra adjective, or she'll add another sentence, or she'll clarify, like she just did, saying, I'm only allowed to release my property. That is designed, she's doing it purposefully, but to control the message, right? She's constantly aware of what other people are thinking or reacting to any situation that she's a part of. So Juan Martinez just made a magnificently powerful point about the level of planning and willingness to engage in outright lying and misleading, that she is not to be trusted under any circumstances. She didn't learn anything. She didn't murder Travis because she was out of her mind, being hurt or abused or jealous. None of these things. It is her character. It is her personality to believe that she is smarter than everyone else in the room, and that the rules of the game, the rules of the organization, the rules of the building, the rules of society, rules don't apply to Jodi. Jodi's smart, and so Jodi is going to move around the rules and ignore them, smugly breaking the rules with impunity, right? So what he has shown right here is not just, hey, she's a liar, but he's proven that Travis didn't die because he had mistreated her. He died because she decided he would need to die because he wasn't doing what she wanted him to do. And she will carry out the worst type of lying and tell you straight to your face that she's the most honest person you've ever met, and you should believe her. And everybody that talks mean about her, they're all lying. Everybody's lying about little old me. Can't you see how honest I am? And Juan just showed exactly who she is.
And those magazines you had with you when you went to meet with Ann Campbell, right?
I brought them almost to the visit, but they don't go with me to see her.
Excuse me?
They don't go with me to see her. They get passed off to several different
I
officers.
understand, but you brought them from your cell, correct?
Yes,
And you, at some point during the visit, requested that these magazines be given to Ann Campbell, right?
yes,
These two magazines that we're talking about here, correct?
correct.
And that was actually done. You're trying to tell us about the process. Why don't you tell us what the process is?
The process is when you want to release property, you have to fill out a request. You have to state your request fairly specifically, what you're releasing, the title of what you're releasing. At least those are the rules now. They've updated it. It was more generic then. And then it is given to an officer who inspects it and then gives it, when it passes inspection, it's given to a sergeant who approves it. And then it's passed off to either, I think it's called, there's a control center. It's given to that officer and then it's given to visitation officer. So when the visitor leaves, they pick up the property and go.
And that's how this, and you attempted to use that process to get these magazines to Ann Campbell, right?
Yes,
And shortly before August 4th, do you know somebody by the name of Matthew McCartney?
yes, I do.
Shortly before this August 4th date, by shortly I mean within the month, you know that Mr. McCartney was interviewed by the prosecutor, right?
I think it was around that time.
You were in contact with Mr. McCartney about the interview, right? In other words, you let him know that this interview with the prosecutor was going to take place, right?
I think my attorney let him know.
Well, isn't it true that in a telephone that you spoke with Mr. McCartney on the telephone about the requested interview by the prosecutor, Juan Martinez?
I believe that is true.
And that interview took place within approximately a month of this August 11th date of the hearing, right?
I wasn't told when it was taking place, but it was close to that time.
And Mr. McCartney is the individual that you testified about previously with whom you had this relationship with, right?
Yes,
And he's somebody that you dated, what, in 2001?
2000 and 2001.
And he's the individual that you said that, well, we kind of broke up because, well, why don't you tell us why you broke up with him, why you think you broke up with him?
Because he cheated on me.
And you're saying that he cheated on you with somebody named Brianna, right?
Bianca.
Bianca? And what happened with regard to that incident is that he cheated on you, you heard about it, and you heard about it while you were at work, right?
Yes,
Was this at the Purple Plum?
this was at Applebee's.
Applebee's, and you decided to drive about an hour and a half to confront Bianca, right?
Yes,
Because you needed to find out, right?
I needed to know, yes.
You needed to know. Isn't that sort of the same thing that you did with Mr. Alexander in August of 2007 when you saw him kissing with somebody that you went and you asked him about what was going on the night before because you needed to know, right?
Yes,
And so you went up to, was it Crater Lake?
yes,
And you went up to Crater Lake, and this is the place where they have people living in not subsidized housing, but housing that is provided by the employer, right?
yes, they're like dorms.
And you were able to find where this Bianca was, right?
Yes.
How was it that you were able to find this Bianca if you had never had contact with her?
I asked a mutual friend and he told me what room she was in. So I
Which
went and knocked
mutual
on
friend did? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I just went and knocked on that door.
Which mutual friend did you ask?
I believe his name was Steve.
And is this the individual that you said that acted really gay, right?
He was gay and he was acting very frantic.
Right. And you indicated that when you came over there, he started to act really frantic, right?
Yes.
I
And he
I
started to
think
act really,
she looks
frantic just at the sight of you, right?
I think because I was asking about Bianca and he knew about the affair.
Well,
okay. To me, right here, this is one of the few places where she looks visibly shaken, right? She does this seems to be something that she was not anticipating. I mean, look at the look on her face right there, and that was just a random me stopping the testimony. And look at the look on her face. She's trying to have that smile that says, "Oh, I'm calm and laid back and life is well." But instead, she looks like, "Oh, pull this nail out from underneath my fingernail now," right? She's looking at him like, "What are you up to? What's happening?" So, what do you think? Did y'all get the feeling she looked a little shook? Yeah, it seems like he said something that got to her. her use of I believe, like she's trying to be so honest, right, Emily? And we know that that is simply not true. Yeah. Jodi is so knowledgeable about how things work in the county jail. Thankfully, she's not knowledgeable about the prison system in Perryville. That's right. Okay. So, yeah, this was one area that I thought, oh, Jodi, you look shook, girl. What's happening here? So let me go back just a little bit. Let's watch.
Is this the individual that you said that acted really gay, right?
He was gay and he was acting very frantic.
Right. And you indicated that when you came over
See her take it. She said he was gay and he acted very frantic. And then she licks her lips. So she's girding her loins for what is about to happen. So I don't know. I don't think she was prepared for this. I think this caught her off guard. I really do. So let's see what's about to happen. I don't know. It's been 14 years since I've seen this. So I don't remember this part, but she definitely looked shook.
there, he started to act really frantic, right?
Yes.
And he started to act really frantic just at the sight of you, right?
I think because I was asking about Bianca and he knew about the affair.
Well, he saw you and you started to talk to him, right?
Yes.
When you started to talk to him, did you immediately indicate to him that you wanted to talk about Bianca?
Not about, but to.
So you indicated you wanted to talk to Bianca, right?
Yes.
And immediately, or shortly thereafter, he started to get all flustered, right? Would that be correct or not?
Not when I saw him, but when I went to her room to knock.
So you start talking to him about Bianca and he tells you what place, the room she's staying in, right?
Yes.
And he goes with you, right?
No, he told me the wrong room.
He gave, initially, when you went to see him, he gave you the wrong room, right?
Yes.
And you went to that wrong room.
Yes.
And when you went to that wrong room, did you speak to the people there?
I knocked, nobody answered.
In the meantime, Steve had gone somewhere else, right?
Yes.
He had gone to where Bianca was, right?
Yes.
But you didn't tell Steve why you were there, right?
Just that I wanted to talk to Bianca.
Right, but you didn't tell him why you wanted to talk to her, right?
No, not why.
And it was kind of an unannounced visit, right?
Yes.
And so he took it upon himself, without any prompting from you, to give you the wrong place and then go and talk to Bianca, right?
Yes. Oh.
And then you went, and how is it that you were able to find Bianca's room?
I thought maybe I misheard him and transposed some numbers, so I reversed the two last numbers. It was a three-digit dorm, and I had the right floor, but I just went to the opposite number.
So do you remember the number?
No.
So you went there, and when you got to the door, you heard that there was talking inside, right?
Yes.
And there was talking inside. Would it be characterized as excited inside?
Steve's voice, yes.
Right, and this is the one that you said he was sort of acting gay over dramatic, right?
Yes, dramatic.
And you attributed that to the fact that he was gay, though, right?
It was a feminine tone, so yes.
Well, no, I mean, part of what you told us before was that, well, he's kind of gay and he's kind of that way,
gay.
and so that he was being dramatic, right?
He is gay and he was acting dramatic.
And that's what you told us, right?
Yes.
It could have also been that it wasn't because he was gay, it was because he was concerned that you were there, that he was excited, right?
Well, I never said that he was.
Overall, you may answer.
I never said he was acting that way because he's gay. I just said the tone of voice, I remember it because it was very feminine and very frantic, almost like a woman.
But you're the one that brought up the fact that he was gay, right?
Yes.
And explaining this to us, right?
Yeah, when I was describing it.
Right. And so you were able to hear his voice through the door, right?
Yes.
And it was an excited tone.
Yes.
And that excited tone could be for a myriad of reasons, but one of them was that you were there unannounced, right?
That's right.
And it could be that he was, for whatever reason, excited or that term, he was excited that you were there, right?
Yeah, it causes speculation. We don't know why he's excited.
Rephrase the question.
He had his demeanor when you arrived changed after you asked for Bianca, right?
I didn't notice it change. I just noticed it different after I went to knock on her door.
And his demeanor changed to the fact that he was more excited, for lack of a better term,
Yes.
right?
Frantic.
And you began to knock on the door, right?
Yes.
Nobody answered, right?
No, they answered.
Initially, right?
Bianca answered. Oh,
Well,
the
no,
first
not
door?
initially.
Do you mean the first door?
second door? Didn't you say before that you went to that door, you knocked on that door, and nobody answered initially? You heard them talking.
For a second before she came to the door, yeah.
So, so you were there long enough to hear them excitedly talking, right?
Not her, just him.
And how long were you standing there before the door was open?
I'd say 5 seconds or less.
She opened the door, right?
Yes.
And did you recognize her? Well, you did recognize her from her photograph, right?
It looked to be the same person.
And you began to talk to her, right?
Yeah, I asked if she was Bianca.
Right. You began to talk to her, right?
Yes.
And you started to talk to her, and you brought up the subject of Matt McCartney, right?
Yes,
She didn't bring it up, right?
that's right.
And you started to talk to her, and you started to ask her whether or not they had a relationship, right?
Yes.
And you were able to determine that they did, in fact, have a relationship, right?
Yes.
And you were able to determine that they, in fact, had been intimate, right?
She indicated they had not had sex, but intimate somewhat, yes.
And ma'am, at that time, when this was going on, you weren't living with Mr. McCartney, right?
No, I was
You
in
had-
Ashland.
Pardon?
I was in Ashland.
And he was where?
He lived at, well, he had moved away from Crater Lake. He had lived at Crater Lake that summer, and now he moved back to Phoenix with his dad at that point.
And your belief was that you and he were still boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, right?
That was my belief.
Actually, he may have had a different belief, as you came to know later, right?
Yes.
He did not believe that you and he had a relationship, but were not boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, right?
I don't know if that was his belief.
Well, you've spoken to him about it, right?
Yes.
And based on your conversation, do you have a belief, don't you have a belief that at that time, he didn't think that you and he were boyfriend and girlfriend?
Based on that conversation, my belief was that he knew he had messed up, and he was very sorry for it.
But how long did this conversation take with Bianca?
We actually sat and chit-chatted for about an hour.
And this was at your request, right?
Initially, yeah, I initiated the contact.
And for an hour, you
It was just a
He did
little
mention
chit chat, y'all.
what her
You know, it's just a
relationship
little
was with
girl
Mr.
talk.
Right?
He wasn't the whole conversation, but initially, yes.
Well, you weren't there to visit with her because you'd driven an hour and a half, right?
Can you say that again?
Well, you weren't there just to chit chat with her, right?
That wasn't the point of the drive, no,
I mean, you wanted to find out what the heck was going on with Mr. McCartney, right?
absolutely.
And so it's fair to say that this wasn't a situation where you were just sitting there chit-chatting about her job or anything like that. It was because you were interested in finding out what was going on, right?
Yes,
And you were satisfied after speaking to her for about an hour what was going on.
I was satisfied pretty early on, not just the hour.
And in fact, isn't it true that you became a bit excited or upset during that conversation?
No,
At any time did you raise your voice to Bianca?
definitely not. I was in her home.
And in this place, Crater Lake, was it what? An hour and a half
Wait a
from where
minute.
you were
Juan,
living,
hush.
right?
Okay. So Juan says, at any time did you like get excited? And Jodi says, oh, no, we're chit-chatting. It's just a girl's day, right? Juan says, well, you shouted, right? Oh, no, definitely not. I was in her home. Okay, what was that? What was that comment designed to do? No, I was in her home. That's to show you how polite she is, right? That's to show you she's such a thoughtful person. I'm sorry, Jodi. Weren't you in Travis's home when you shot him, stabbed him, and decapitated him? So this is such a good example of the delusional thought, the grandiosity, being so smug about how intelligent I am, and then not having any kind of self-awareness for how my current behavior would affect other people in the room. These people with this type of personality disorder, they don't see it. They can't see it. You know, if I have, let me think of an example. Let's say that I shoplifted something, right? And then I get questioned about it. I would never say something like, "Oh no, I always pay for my things. Just go ask, you know, Macy's. I go in there every day and I pay for the things that I buy." Because I don't want to give them like an idea to go look somewhere else, right? But it's to guide you away from the current situation that you're in. And so she says, "Oh no, this was her home. I would never raise my voice." You won't raise your voice, but you'll shoot her or stab her. So Jodi has no idea that everyone hates her. She has no theory of mind. She doesn't recognize that she is absurd. She's too invested in looking superior and important.
About 70 miles.
But it's an hour and a half driving, right?
I think so, yes, about an hour and a half.
And then after that, where did you go?
After that, it was very late. I didn't want to drive the hour and a half back because I'd fall asleep. So I went and stayed at in a mutual friend's dorm. There were two.
And what's that friend's name?
Eddie.
Eddie what?
Eddie Lee.
And how did you know Eddie Lee?
I knew him because his parents also owned a restaurant in Wairika, as did my parents at that time. And
How old were you when this was happening?
how old was I?
Yes.
I believe I just turned 21.
And your parents.
That's exactly right, Zelda.
Right?
No, not
Their
yet.
belief that they're special and they're better and they're entitled, it comes from a need to project a certain image. It is not backed by real work. They'll tell you how smart they are. They may even lie to you and tell you they have a degree from some fancy college. But then when you follow up and check, they, you know, like Jodi, they didn't even graduate high school, or maybe they graduated high school, but they flunked out of college, you know, and that's fine. Not college and whatnot's not for everybody. My point is, she wants to make everybody think she's very well educated and she's so smart. She can do all these great things, but when you actually look at the reality of her day-to-day life, there is no accomplishment, none.
They had owned one up to how old were you when they
I think
stopped?
I was 16 when they closed it the first time, 16 or 17.
Right about the time you moved out of their home.
It was I moved out after they closed it.
And growing up, they had more than one restaurant, though, right?
Yes.
And how many restaurants did your family have?
Total that I know of, 6 or 7.
And growing up, there really wasn't any financial problems, was there?
Early on, there was not.
And early on, there were trips to Disneyland, for example, right?
Yes, when I was very young.
And when you say very young, we're talking up to 6, 7, or 8, right?
Under 10.
And during that time, it was what has been described as what you've described as an idyllic sort of environment, right?
Yes, somewhat.
And then at some point, the restaurant issue started, there became an issue with the restaurants, right?
Yes, I believe, my understanding is it was an issue.
And Mr. McCartney, where was he living at the time that you went to see Bianca?
He was living in Phoenix, Oregon with his dad.
And he had a room there, correct?
I believe he had his own room there, yes.
And sometimes when Mr. McCartney, what town did he live in again?
Phoenix, Oregon?
And after this conversation, you and he broke up, right?
Yes, after he got back from Borrego Springs.
Pardon?
After he returned from Borrego Springs, that's where he was that night.
Okay, he came up, and what town did you meet in? Phoenix? Is that where you met?
Yes,
And that's when you decided that was the end of it, right? You decided that, right?
I don't remember. It was just a lot of tears, and it was obvious that the trust was gone and there was not any kind of relationship anymore.
And basically, that's the same reason why you and Mr. Alexander broke up, because according to you, the trust was gone, right?
That's right.
And so after the trust is gone with Mr. McCartney, though, you still continue sort of seeing him, don't you?
There were some blurred boundaries, but we were not boyfriend-girlfriend.
And in fact, you even stayed together at Crater Lake or Ventana Inn together after this, right? After you broke up, right?
We crashed in a tent for 2 weeks, but we were not together after at Ventana.
But you did have intercourse with him after this breakup, didn't you? Do you remember telling us that on direct
Yes,
examination?
one time.
One time, but you did though, right?
Yes.
And did he continue to live at his parents' house?
He moved down to Ventana to find work also. He was looking for seasonal work.
Right, and at Ventana, this is where they have the places to stay as part of the job, right?
Yes, more employee housing.
And where were you when he was at Ventana?
I was hired at Ventana first, and then he applied for a job right after me, and he was hired also.
And you and he were not sharing, were you sharing the same bed or not?
After I got housing, no, we were not.
Right. Isn't it true that after you got housing, though, you would, when he wasn't around, go over to wherever he was staying and stay in his bed?
He didn't have a bed, he lived in a tent, and no, that's not true.
So how long did you continue to see him?
Well, we were no longer romantic. We just hung out more like friends.
But you continue to be friends up to this day, though, haven't you?
We've sort of lost contact, but yeah, we're still friends.
And, well, you at least had contact with him involving the interview with the prosecutor, though, right?
I believe I did, but I know my attorneys did for sure.
I'm not interested in what your attorneys did. I'm interested in what you did. Isn't it true that you had contact with him, right?
Yes.
And when you made your trip down from Wairika to kill Mr. Alexander, you stopped in the Monterey area, didn't you?
I can't answer your question the way it's phrased.
You didn't stop in the Monterey?
Uh-oh.
You didn't drive through the Monterey area?
I did stop in the Monterey area.
Uh-oh.
What you saw in the area was Matthew McCartney, right?
Yes.
Boom.
Did he live in Seaside then?
I believe he lived in Pacific Grove
And that's the same.
or Monterey. I mean, the border is they were right next to each other.
And so you actually stopped to see him back on June 3rd of 2008, right?
Yes.
And in fact, you spent the night with him June 2nd to the morning of June 3rd, right?
Yes, I crashed on the floor.
But you spent the night with him, right?
Not with him, no.
Okay, you spent the night at his apartment, right?
Him and his roommate, yes.
Okay, he and his roommate had an apartment. You spent the night there, correct?
It was like a house. I stayed the night there.
She
in the room.
refuses.
In the house, they had a room together, both of them, right?
Yes.
And
When
you
she
stayed
starts
in the
that
same room
game,
as two individuals, right?
she's hiding something.
All right. And the three of you were in the room, though, is the point, then, right?
Yes. When we slept, yes.
And you guys went to sleep around midnight, and you got up at what time the next morning, which would have made it the 3rd. What time did you get up?
I don't know what time we went to sleep, and I woke up sometime in the morning.
And did he go with you to see Mr. Brewer or not?
No,
And so you, after seeing him though, there, you parted ways and you left, right? And went to Selena's, right?
yes, I did. Yes, went to Selena's.
Pardon?
I went to Selena's.
Now
And
that you
how far is
mention
Selena's
it,
from
Juan,
Pacific Grove, Seaside, Monterey, whatever the area is? How far is it?
My recollection is that it's between 20 and 30 minutes, depending on the traffic.
And you were sort of detouring to Selena's for some cosmetic work, right?
Well, I had to go to Selena's anyway to get on the road because I have to take Highway 1 south. I mean, 101, excuse me, south.
But you did go, when you went to Selena's, you did get some cosmetic work, right?
Yes, my nails.
Right, and you said it took a long time, right?
Yes.
And what kind of place was that in Selena's?
It was at a strip mall, somewhat,
What was the name of it? How about that?
oh, I don't know. It was one of those little operations where people are just coming and going. There was a long wait.
And they only do nails, according to you then?
It looked like they did pedicures also. I don't remember if there was hair.
shut up, Jodi. Good God. Shut up. If they're doing manicures, they're doing pedicures, lady. Ugh. Okay. Suzanne Thompson, Kayla Jean Giles trial starts today in Alexandria, Louisiana. She's just like Jodi. Do we know, Suzanne, is it being aired online? Is it live that we could watch it? Yeah, exactly. Doing life my way. No. I won't sleep with a guy that I'm not girlfriend with, but I'll certainly put a knife in his back 27 times. Right? Yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all, it's hard to listen to this, isn't it? It's hard. You just want to say to her, do you have any idea how dumb you look? And she'll say, well, what do you mean? I'm just answering the questions to the best of my ability. Yeah, she's a work of art.
Or not, but just definitely nails and feet.
But it could have been a salon where they also did hair, right?
It might have been.
And do you remember the name of this place at all?
No.
Oh, really? What time did you get to Selena's?
I don't remember.
And how long were you in Selena's?
A few hours. I don't remember. I knew that I wanted to get on the road, but
So what time did you get on the road?
it was still light out, but I don't remember the time.
This was after you had been over to Mr. Brewer's house, right?
Yes.
You were there for a time and then you left Mr. Brewer's house, right?
Yes.
And then you went back to return something, right?
If I remember from his recollection, I kind of remember it.
Well, I'm not asking for his, I'm asking for your recollection. Do you remember coming back and giving him something?
I remember, I don't actually remember it.
Then I
but-
don't want you to tell me if you don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Judge?
Yes, all right, ladies and gentlemen, Monday, 10:30. Please remember the admonition. Have a nice weekend. You're excused.
And Nermi's sitting there going, damn, I hate this girl. I really, really hate this. Look how she stands there. She stands there like the Sound of Music nuns, right?
Please be seated. The record will show the jury has left the courtroom. Ms. Arias, you may step down. Counsel, anything else for today?
All right, here we go.
Thank you.
I know, Jackie, it's crazy. Crazy. All right. Okay, so we're already, it's already been like right at an hour. Okay. All right, so what did Kayla Giles do? I'm not familiar with that case. Bring in his brother so he can tell her he can't stand looking at her. Jod, I'm reading the book by Susan Ellen, former inmate, Slumber Party from Hell. 7 years in Perryville prison. Very scary place. I posted the first chapter months ago. Well, okay, so we all need to go over to Zelda's channel and did you read it through? Is that what you did, Zelda? Okay, Kayla Jean Giles. Let me see if I can find that. We could watch that together. Oh, I don't want to get rid of that. Hold on. Kayla Jean Giles. Cookie. She's a 34-year-old female. Oh, Rapides Parish. Okay. Let's see. Second degree murder. Kayla Giles accused of shooting her estranged husband, Thomas Kuti Jr., on September 8th, 2018. 3 years to get to trial. Wow. No, more than that. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 4 years. Pair met in Coliseum Boulevard Walmart in Alexandria for a child swap, and Kuti died on the scene. Kayla Jean Giles' bond set at $1 million. Damn! Look at there, Judge Patrick Murphy. Even Kayla Giles, second degree murder, she gets a damn bond of $1 million. You're the dumbass that came up with $500,000. Let's see. Hey, kitty, quit. Hush up. Pretrial conference is set for January 12th. Presided over by non-judicial district Greg Bird. 2 weeks. Jury selection take a week. They've already requested 24 subpoenas for witnesses. Giles was acting in self-defense. The couple was in the middle of a divorce and child custody fight over their daughter. The day before the shooting, Giles had been served court papers. They had filed for a new trial in the custody dispute. Giles had been awarded primary custody, but Kuti Jr. contended that should be reversed. In arguing for a new trial, Kuti Jr. claimed Giles had been abusive toward him. The couple's daughter turned 2 on the day of the shooting. Kuti Jr. had met Giles in the Walmart parking lot to pick up Giles' 2 other daughters so they could attend their sister's birthday party. A gag order was instituted 10 days after Giles' arrest, and it remains in place. Even after the criminal trial, there are other cases left to be decided. 2 federal lawsuits Giles has filed are on hold until after the criminal case is resolved. She first filed a lawsuit against a United Specialty Insurance Company and Delta Defense LLC over non-payment on a self-defense liability insurance policy she purchased when buying a gun used in the shooting. The policy insured her as a platinum member of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, covered criminal defense fees up to $150,000. She received a $50,000 payment, but later was notified that her claim was being denied because it did not meet the policy's self-defense definition. United Specialty later was dismissed from the lawsuit. The second federal lawsuit concerns a homeowner's policy from USAA General Indemnity that Giles had on the Pineville home she shared with Kuti Jr. The house was destroyed in a February 7th fire that the Louisiana State Fire Marshal determined was intentionally set. In the lawsuit, Giles contended USAA did not pay her for her losses in a timely fashion. The case is on hold through the end of January 2022. According to online court records, as of Monday, the fire remains under investigation. Giles faces 2 wrongful death lawsuits, one filed by the guardian of her daughter, the other by Thomas Kuti Sr. I guess that must be the husband's mom and dad, would be my bet. Very interesting case, right? Man, I wonder if it's being streamed somewhere. Jurors were selected 6 days ago. I'm online. I wonder if they're... Sorry, y'all. I'm looking to see if I can find it. Giles Kuti. I try. Oh, we got Kelsey Thomas's trial. That was 1 year ago. Kelly Ballinger. There's a snake breeder murder. No? Oh, so in terms of trials, okay, I don't see anything. Did y'all find anything? Not seeing anything coming up on YouTube. I looked everywhere. Well, shoot. Okay, I didn't find it. Jodi Arias. Day 22. All right. Day 22. Okay. Ready to go. I think I'm ready. Let me make sure. Okay, let me share. We're moving now to Jodi Arias day 2. And she's still being cross-examined by everybody's hero. All right. Y'all ready? Everybody ready? Put a 21 if you're ready. Letitia Stott will be in court. Hopefully they drag her in kicking and screaming. That would actually be a gift, wouldn't it? All right. We got a few people. All right. So here we go. Jodi Arias. This is day 2 of her cross-examination by Juan.
This is exhibit 378.
It's at night, I'm gonna go to sleep.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh, easy.
We approach.
You may. Gentlemen, you should disregard what you just saw on the screen. You may continue.
Ma'am, this is exhibit 348.
A lot of details on this case that haven't been released to the public and not even to Travis's family. And those details are known only by us and the person who did it. Okay, and that's one of the reasons I'm here, because I believe that you know some of these details. And I
Okay.
think you can help us.
I would love to help you in any way that I can.
Okay.
Did you hear yourself telling the detective that you would help them in any way that you could?
Yes.
That's not true, is it?
I don't know, I guess it depends on what help means.
Yes or no? Were you there to help him?
I don't know.
Were you there to tell the truth?
No,
That wasn't the truth, was it? That you were there to help him, was it?
no, that was not the truth.
And in fact, you were there for a different purpose. You were there so that he wouldn't get the truth, right?
No, I was there against my will.
You were there against your will. You didn't have to talk to him, did you?
In hindsight, I
Ma'am,
realized I
yes or
didn't
no?
have to.
Did you have to talk to him? I'm not asking you about hindsight. Isn't it true that you could have chosen not to talk to him, right?
I could have, I think.
And well, you keep saying, I think.
At the time, I didn't know
Ma'am,
that.
I'm asking you, you keep saying, I think. Isn't it true that you had an opportunity to stop talking to him, but you chose to talk to him? Yes or no?
That's true.
And during that time, you told him certain things, right?
Yes,
And in fact, when you spoke to the detective, one of the things that you told him was that you were never there, right?
yes,
And by there, I mean at the crime scene, right?
yes,
And you told us previously, well, the reason that I lied to him was because I was ashamed. Do you remember telling us that?
yes.
Just because you're ashamed, that gives you the right to lie?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Well, ma'am, the fact that you were ashamed, do you think that justifies what you did?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
No,
And do you think, the other thing that you said, well, you know, I knew it was going to happen, but I was trying to postpone the inevitable. Is that what you were doing when you were lying?
no, because the inevitable had occurred.
Pardon?
The inevitable had already occurred.
The inevitable to you was being arrested then, right?
Yes,
So if being arrested had already occurred, then why didn't you tell the truth?
I was ashamed.
So, which is what you told us before, right?
Before when?
Today, isn't that the word that we just talked about? You were ashamed?
Yes,
So are you having problems remembering what you said a couple minutes ago?
no,
So you were ashamed. What could you possibly be ashamed of other than that you killed Travis Alexander, right?
that was the biggest part of the shame.
Oh, so there were other things that you were ashamed of more than killing Mr. Alexander then?
Yes,
Objection.
Did she just say that killing him was part
Yes.
of her shame?
And one of the other things. that
Good
you
God,
were-
imagine
Well,
what
and the
else
reason
she's
that you were
got, what her
ashamed
other
of killing
secrets
Mr.
are.
Alexander is because that was going to have some repercussions for you, wasn't there?
part of the reason, yes.
Again, part of the reason. The other reason was that you were feeling scared, right?
That's part of the reason too.
So if you feel scared, you believe that then it's okay to lie.
No, that's not true.
Well, that's what you did though, right?
Yes, it is.
So that's no excuse then, right?
No, it isn't.
And in fact, there's nothing that the detective ever did to get you to say whatever it was that you said on the first interview, right?
Not that I recall.
Well, again, we're with the memory issue. Ma'am, are you having problems remembering what happened back on July 15th of 2008?
No,
So he didn't do anything then, right?
I can't think of any examples.
Right, because he didn't do anything, right?
Anything what?
What are we talking about, ma'am? Are you again having problems understanding what's going on?
Argumentative, Your Honor, if she can't understand his questions, that's.
Overruled. You may answer.
I don't understand his question.
Ma'am, the detective didn't do anything during the interview to cause you to lie, right?
No,
And the detective admonished you or gave you your Miranda warnings, didn't he?
yes,
And he sat and he talked to you, right?
yes,
And one of the other things that you told him was that, well, you were told us here in court was that the reason that you lied was because you were thinking about your family, right?
That was one of the reasons.
That's one of the reasons that you told us, right?
Yes.
How is it that, so then what you're telling us, if there's a good reason for it, it's okay to lie?
That's not what I'm telling anyone.
Well, you were saying you were thinking about your family, right?
I did say that.
And that's a good reason or an excuse for you to lie then, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, that's the way you try to, didn't you tell us on direct examination that the reason that you lied was because you were thinking in part about your family? Yes or no?
Yes, I said that.
And so then the way you were conveying it to us was that it was okay. That's a good excuse to lie.
If I conveyed it that way, I didn't mean to.
Well, because you still have a family, right?
Yes.
So but you did say that you were concerned about your family, right?
Yes, I did.
You were concerned about your reputation, right?
Yes, I was.
And so you were thinking more of yourself when you made this statement to this detective, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, other than you, who would be sure about your statements?
God?
Well, God's not here. We can't subpoena him, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Are you sure that we can't? Because it seems like you're leaving the door open for that.
I love Juan Martinez.
With regard to this issue of this interview,
Is that the
it was
funniest
for-
thing
when
ever?
you lied, it was to benefit you, right?
It was not for my benefit.
Well,
Wow.
it wasn't hurting
Jodi.
you, lying, was it? If he would have believed your lie, it would have helped you, right?
It was hurting me to lie.
Pardon?
Oh,
It was hurting me to lie.
it was
It was
hurting
very
her to
what?
It
lie.
was hurting me to lie.
So in other words,
Poor old
you're saying
Jodi.
that when you're talking to this detective, it was hurting your case to lie?
It was
Yes.
hurting her to
You
lie.
didn't know that at that time, did you?
No,
You took a chance by lying, didn't you?
I wouldn't call it that.
Well, yes, you did take a chance because you were hoping.
Objection argumentative.
I don't have a question now.
Finish your question.
You were hoping, ma'am, that he would believe what you were saying so that you could then walk out of that jail, right?
Sure.
No, that's not right.
What other reason would you have to lie other than that it would benefit you?
I assumed that though that video would become public one day and I didn't want my family to see me admitting to something like that.
So, but you admitted it now.
Yes,
Your family's here, right?
yes,
There are cameras everywhere, right?
yes.
What has changed other than geography?
Time.
Time has changed. Also, a lie back then.
She's
can be
back
morphed
to
into the
being
truth now
demure.
because Time has changed, right?
Nothing has been morphed.
Well, you're saying that time has made the change that allows you to
Even
say
her
something
friends
like
and
that, right?
family are looking at her like, really, Jodi?
An internal change, yes.
So you were saying that back then you were geared to lie.
No,
Well, that's what you said. There's been an internal change, right?
yes,
And so this internal change, before that internal change, back on July 15th of 2008, that was part of the reason why you lied, this internal issue or change or problem, whatever it was, right?
yes, I had a problem.
Oh, she had a
And
problem.
That problem allowed you to lie, right?
Yes, it is true, Juan. I was a homicidal maniac.
I don't know how to answer that.
Why don't you know how to answer it? You're the one that
But
brought this
now
up
I
about
see
your internal
my
problem.
ways, and
Objection, ask and answered argumentative.
I would never yell at
This
someone
internal
else's
issue
house.
that you had, that made it, in your mind, okay for you to lie back on July 15th of 2008, right?
I didn't consider it okay.
Well, you didn't consider it bad, did you?
I did,
Well, you kept doing it over and over throughout the whole interview, didn't you?
yes,
And at no time did you stop the interview and say to yourself, this is not the thing to do, right?
I did.
You did tell him something different during that interview?
No, you said say to yourself, not him.
So,
Good
but when you're
Lord.
talking to
Ugh.
yourself, no one can hear you, right?
Yes.
And it's really hard for people to corroborate what you're thinking if we don't know what you say, right?
Yes,
So we have to take your word that that's what you were thinking internally, right?
yes, but it
Yes
crossed my
or
mind.
no? Yes or no?
I said yes.
And So with this interview, you then started to talk about whether or not you had been in Arizona, right?
Yes,
You said, no, you hadn't been in Arizona, right?
that's right.
That's an absolute lie, right?
Yes,
And the reason that you didn't want to admit to being in Arizona is because you knew that you had killed Travis Alexander, right?
yes,
You didn't tell that to the detective, right?
that's right.
And additionally, during that whole interview, you gave excuse after excuse as to why you weren't the person that had done this, right?
Yes.
So safe to say that the whole interview was a lie, right?
Not the whole interview, but anything regarding my presence there on jury.
Anything having to do with responsibility in this crime was a lie, correct?
Yes,
And the
Wait a
reason
minute.
you did-
Wait. Not the whole interview. Anything regarding my presence. Really? Is that really what does that mean? Can somebody explain to me what that means? The whole interview was about her, right? The whole entire interview was about her. And I do think that what makes it so humorous, I mean, look, this is a horrible, horrible crime. There's no doubt. And I'll tell you why this is really not funny, because his family is sitting there listening to this unbelievable female. They were subjected to this crap by her for days and days and days. On hindsight, watching her though, you can see she is a clown. When I see people like this, they haven't murdered somebody, but they're still just as ridiculous. They do things and they say things that are just insane. There are actually a small number of people that really buy it. They really buy into it and they believe them when they answer foolish things like that.
that was because it was to your benefit, right?
Objection, asking and answered Mr. testimony.
that's not the reason I did it.
Well, it didn't hurt you, did it, back then? In the moment. it
Yeah,
didn't hurt you, did it?
her family
It did.
has been dealing with
How would it
her
hurt you in the
forever.
moment if you had already
The
been charged?
family has been
Didn't change
damaged
anything.
by her many, many times in the past. She's done horrible things to her little sister and brother. She's
What
a
do you
very
mean?
bad person.
In the moment, at that time, how could it possibly have hurt you since you'd already been charged? It didn't change anything, did it?
It did change things to lie.
Well, it didn't change where you were staying, did it?
No,
It didn't change the fact that you were still charged, right?
that's right.
It didn't change anything. The fact that you lied at that point, right?
That's not right.
What did it change, man? Tell me what it changed on that day.
It probably changed my whole future.
I'm not asking about your future. I'm asking what it changed on that day.
Sustained.
Now, the other, you had time to think about.
Answer.
Answer what? There's no question.
Yeah, there was.
I think she answered the question. Let me continue.
Ma'am, after that interview, you then had another chance to have a conversation with Detective Flores the next day, right?
Yes,
And again, it was a voluntary conversation, wasn't it?
yes,
And it was the same situation as the day before, right? He sat down, he asked you questions, right?
yes,
On the previous day, he really hadn't given you too much information about the crime, right?
not too much.
No. And it was actually during the second interview that he started to give you some information, right?
Yes,
And in fact, he showed you some photographs, right?
I think that was the 16th, yes.
Excuse me?
I think that was on the 16th.
Why don't you just pull the microphone a little bit closer? So you think that it was on the 16th when he provided you more information, right?
Yes, if I remember correctly.
And one of the things that you said was that somehow you weren't very sophisticated in dealing with law enforcement. You told us that during direct examination, right?
That's correct.
And just because you're not sophisticated or having dealt with law enforcement in the past, do you think that that gives you an excuse to lie?
No.
But you did it anyway, right?
Yes, I did.
And you told us that, yes, you were unsophisticated with law enforcement, right?
Yes.
So then what difference does it make if you're unsophisticated with law enforcement in terms of telling the truth or a lie?
I don't know.
But you brought it up on direct examination, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you did it because you wanted people to feel sorry for you, right?
No.
Objection, argument.
No.
But it didn't have anything to do with the conversation that you had with Detective Flores, did it?
What?
That you were unsophisticated.
I don't understand.
He asked you questions, ma'am, and you gave him answers on July 16th of 2008, right?
That's right.
The fact that you may not have dealt with another police officer before didn't change the fact that he was asking you questions and you were answering, right?
Yes.
It didn't change the fact that he was speaking English to you, right?
That's right.
And you understood what he was asking, right?
Mostly, yes.
Are you saying that you didn't understand what Detective Flores was asking you during that interview?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, I'm asking you whether or not you understood what he was asking you if he was speaking English.
I understood the English words, sometimes not the meaning of the question.
Oh, so you're going behind the meaning of the question to say that maybe you didn't understand his motive for the question, right?
I'm not sure if I was considering his motive.
Well, you said that you're not sure about whether or not you understood the question because of what was behind the question, right?
His meaning, yes.
His meaning. Well, his meaning can be expressed through his words, right?
Yes.
He was asking you certain things, and then you were answering whatever it was that you wanted to answer, right?
Yes.
And you chose to change your story from the day before, right?
Yes.
And you chose to change the story was because it benefited you, right?
No.
Well, there's a reason that you changed your story, right?
Yes.
Because the story the day before didn't work, right?
I don't know.
Well, you were still in jail, right?
Yes.
And nothing had changed, right?
Not that I remember.
Well, again, I ask you, do you have problems with your memory about any events? It seems like you keep telling me that you have problems with your memory. Do you have problems with your memory?
Occasionally.
You didn't seem to have any problems on direct examination when you were talking to us about all the sexual exploits with Mr. Alexander, did you?
I did have problems.
You regaled us for days on end about his exploits, didn't you?
I wouldn't say regaled.
Okay, you told us about it for days on end, didn't you?
I just answered the questions I
Yes
was
or no?
asked.
You told us. When the question was posed, you told us, didn't you?
To the best of my recollection.
Is anybody saying that you didn't do it to the best of your recollection?
You're implying that?
Ma'am, isn't it true that what the prosecutor's implying is that you knew too much during the direct examination? If we're talking about implications,
Well, then that would be false.
well, isn't it true that you had a great memory when you were on direct examination with regard to issues involving Mr. Alexander's sexual exploits?
Objection, argument, we were asked and answered.
Sustained, rephrase.
You told us a lot about you and Mr. Alexander's sexual dalliances, right?
Yes.
And you were able to give us dates, right?
Usually.
Well, a lot of the times you were able to give us dates, right?
Yes.
You were able to tell us what happened, right?
Usually.
Well, a lot of the time. For example, the first time that, according to you, you had oral sex, you were able to tell us when that was, right?
Yes.
You were able to tell us how it happened, right?
Yes.
You were able to tell us where it was, right?
Yes.
And that was before July 16th of 2008, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was in November of 2006, right?
No.
When was it then?
A week after we met, September
So when was that?
2006.
It was in 2006, and so a week after you met what, in June what?
Early September 2006.
So you do have a good memory, right? You just showed me that you'd have a good memory for events that occurred before July 16th of 2008, right?
I reviewed those things, so I memorized them.
Oh, so you actually sat down and you memorized it. How is it that what did you memorize it from?
Date and timestamps.
I know, but what did you memorize it from, Matt? Are you
Photographs.
talking that you sat down with a police report and then you memorized it?
No, they were photographs.
Pardon?
They were photos.
Family photos?
Photos.
Photographs. So you looked at some photographs then, right?
Yes.
Oh, so there were photographs of the first time that you had oral intercourse with Mr. Alexander?
No.
Well, then what is it that you reviewed that gives you this knowledge?
Photographs.
Now Juan is having fun playing her game. It's
So
awesome.
it was in July of 2006. Is this when this happened, right?
September.
And it was in September of 2006 that
He's brilliant.
photographs of it.
Convention, yes.
Were the photographs at or near the time of this oral sex that you regaled us with?
I don't think so.
So but you do have an independent recollection of it, don't you?
What do you mean by that?
Do you have an independent memory of having oral intercourse?
Remember that
Where
song
did
she
you
sang?
realize
If
that
I
the first time it
change my memory.
You mean, I don't know what you mean.
Oh,
Independent
shut up,
what?
Jody.
Do you have a memory of the first time you had oral intercourse with Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
So you do remember it then, right?
Yes.
And you remember where it was, right?
Yes.
So that event was before this July 16th of 2008 interview, right?
Yes.
That was further in time, right?
Yes.
You didn't seem to have too much of a memory problem with that, right?
That's right.
Did you ever review anything else with regard to the July 16th, 2008 interview?
Very briefly, it makes me sick.
Is
to my
that a yes or
stomach.
no?
I guess that would be,
It's a yes, Jody.
So you did review parts, at least, according to you, the way you're saying it, of the interview that you had on July 16th of 2008, right?
yes.
And you're saying that your memory of what happened on July 16th of 2008 is so clouded today that it's only based on that review?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You do have an independent recollection of it then, right?
No.
What do you mean by independent?
Independent means coming from inside of your head.
It's based on what I've reviewed.
So everything that you have told us then in this case is based on what you reviewed?
I'm referring to July 16th.
So everything with regard to July 16th is based on what you reviewed. You don't have any other recollection.
Not everything, but most of it.
Do you remember that you lied?
Maybe she's
Yes.
thinking about going
And
from
do
the
you remember what you
ninja
lied
story
about?
to an Alzheimer's defense.
And do you remember that you lied about the killing of Travis Alexander, right?
Yes.
Very
And
spooky,
that,
Zelda.
you know, is a change from what you said the day before, right?
Yes.
And it was a drastic change, right?
Yes.
It was a total change because now it was, you were there, right?
Yes.
You knew that that would be important, right?
Yes.
And in fact, what you were trying to do is because the detective had already told you about the fingerprints, didn't he?
I think you did,
Yes.
yes.
And he also told you about the hair that was there,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
You guys talked about DNA analysis, didn't you?
He,
Oh God, Jody.
And you talked about, and he showed you the photograph with a foot in it, with your foot in it. Do you remember that?
And your pants.
So after he showed, and you don't deny that that's your foot in the photograph, do you?
I don't deny it.
And after he told you that, that's when you changed your story, didn't you?
Yes.
Because, and you changed your story to conform with the forensic evidence that he was telling you about, right?
That's right.
And that was because you wanted to make up a story that conformed with that, with what he was telling you, right?
Yes, as much as possible.
Because you did not want any consequences with regard to the killing of Travis Alexander, right?
I wasn't concerned about consequences at that point.
Man,
Oh
do you
my
think it's a
God.
Good
Just like
excuse?
she said, if I did this, I
A lie,
want to get the
just
death
because this
penalty.
detective is giving you some forensic evidence.
No.
but it's a good reason to lie if you want to get out of whatever you are being talked about, right?
That wasn't my goal, so.
Well, was your goal to go to prison?
no. Not physical prison on earth, no.
So your goal was not to go to prison then, right?
It wasn't a goal of mine, I can say.
And in fact, that was something that you were trying to avoid, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I was trying to kill myself, I think.
Ma'am,
God almighty.
you've said that many times, that you tried to kill yourself, right? In court.
I don't know that many, but I've recounted a time that I did,
You've said it more than 3, 4, 5 times, right?
perhaps.
And in fact, one of the things that you told us about was that, well, when you were in the Maricopa County Jail, that you tried to kill yourself, right?
No, Siskiyou County Jail.
Siskiyou County Jail. So you do remember that. And that when you tried to do that, you took some
I
Advil, you
wonder,
remember telling us about that?
Yes.
And that what you did then,
Does anybody know about this suicide attempt? Do y'all remember her trying to kill her? I mean, she says she talks a lot about it, but she's claiming she had an attempt while she was in jail. I don't remember that. Does anybody remember that? Okay. Well, go ahead and get it. I'm gonna have to look into that. I don't remember that.
is you took some razor, right?
Yes.
And that you cut yourself, right?
It was a nick.
It was a nick. And because it stung so much that you said, nah, this is not the way for me to go, right?
I didn't say that. I
You
just,
said it stung and that's why you stopped. Isn't that what your direct testimony was?
that night, yes.
Right.
Okay. So she took a razor and she put it in her skin, but she stopped because it was stinging. It was hurting. But is she aware what she did to Travis? Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
And that's the night that I'm talking to you about, right?
Yes.
I'm not talking to you about any other night, am I?
It sounded like you were.
No. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about any other night, am I? Do you understand that?
Okay, I understand that.
And you nicked yourself and it hurt, right?
Yes.
And I think the word that you used, stung, right?
Yes.
To use your standard, ma'am, of how you stopped because it stung. Can you imagine how much it must have hurt Mr. Alexander when you stuck that knife right into his chest? That really must have hurt, right?
Argumentative.
Sustained. Let me continue.
You also told a story, right?
Oh, I feel so bad for his family. It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
And your story was that it was 2 individuals that came in, right?
Yes.
And one individual was a male, right?
Yes.
And another one
Here
was a
comes the
female, right?
ninja story.
And you know, as the police, I got to follow up on that, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Do you think that police don't investigate crimes that if somebody provides them a lead, do you think that they don't go out and try to find out if it's true or not?
Objection, Mr. Ellis.
Did you consider the consequences of your lie?
Zelda, you said that Jodi was charged with molesting 2 boys in Wairika? How old was she when that happened? Well, maybe Zelda's not here anymore. I have to look into that. That's interesting.
No.
No, because it was all about you, right?
Argumentative.
didn't consider the consequences, but you went even further than saying that it was two people, right? You said other things, right?
Yes,
And that was totally different than what you had said the day before, right?
yes,
And what you said was that these people, you were taking a photograph, right?
yes,
You never mentioned anything about dropping a camera, did you?
no,
And you never mentioned anything about running down the hallway or anything like that, did you?
no,
And what you did say is that you were down, somebody hit you on the head, right?
yes,
That you heard a pop, right?
yes,
And that while this was going on, you heard Mr. Alexander moaning or uttering some words, right?
screaming.
Screaming. And you heard him screaming to go, you said that he was screaming to go to the neighbors, right?
Yes,
And at some point you said that you saw Mr. Alexander on all fours, right?
yes,
And he couldn't move his feet or feel his legs, right?
I said that he said that.
Pardon?
I said that he said that.
But he wasn't moving, was he?
He was,
According to your story, he wasn't moving, was he?
I don't remember, he was lethargic is what I think I said, he said. I said
And-
that he said.
You weren't able to get him out of there, according to your story, right?
That's correct.
But you were able, at some point, according to you, get out of there, right?
Yes,
And that's what you told the detective, right?
yes,
And the reason you told the detective this lie was because you didn't want to be charged in this case, didn't you?
that's not the reason.
Was the reason that you told him that because you did want to be charged in this case?
What did you say?
I said, was the reason that you told him that because you did want to be charged in this case?
Because I did?
Yes, you said you didn't. Ma'am, didn't you just tell me that the reason you told him that was not because you didn't want to be charged? That's what you just said, right?
That wasn't the reason I told him that. That's correct.
Well, you didn't tell him the story just so you could be charged, right?
That's also correct.
So you told him a story for a reason, right?
Yes,
Is it the embarrassment factor now?
that was part of it.
And so it's more important to you about your feelings of embarrassment than to tell the truth.
You say that as present tense. That's not correct.
I'm talking about back on July 16th of 2008. Your feelings of embarrassment were more important than telling the truth, right?
I didn't really weigh importance.
Well,
Golly.
you said that one of the reasons that didn't tell the truth was because of embarrassment, right?
Yes, that's what you said.
You're correct.
All right, let's go with the word shame then. Because of you were thinking of shame back then, that's why you didn't tell him the truth, right?
That's just part of the reason. The
Part of
bigger
it.
part.
And that shame is what, on you?
Yes,
And you are ashamed because you killed him? Is that what it is?
I was definitely ashamed of that and other things.
But you were also ashamed that it would get out that you were the person that did it, right?
Certainly.
And so to you, the fact that your feelings, in this case being ashamed, are so strong back then that that was an excuse, a good excuse for your lie, right?
It wasn't the sole deciding factor, but it was a big reason.
It was a big reason, but my question is much more direct than that. My question is, this feeling ashamed was more important to you then than telling the truth.
I wouldn't say important, but it felt stronger.
All right, to use your phrase, your feeling of being ashamed was strong back then to the point that it overrode your telling the truth, right?
That's right.
But that's no excuse, is it?
No,
Nothing that you might have been feeling at that time was an excuse to lie, right?
that's right.
It is Captain Obvious, Emily.
Because it would have benefited you, whether it was because you felt ashamed or because you didn't want to tell about it, right?
I wasn't thinking of benefits.
What's that?
I was not thinking of benefits.
Well, you weren't thinking of telling the truth, were you?
I was thinking about it.
But you didn't do it.
No, I didn't.
And there were this factor of being ashamed. What other factors did you consider, ma'am?
I considered if I told the truth, then I would have to explain why. And if I had to explain why, then I would have to go back through our whole history, back to things that he was very ashamed of, that I was ashamed of.
She did it to
Okay.
protect
But
Travis.
didn't you just? in
She
this
wants to
trial, haven't you
protect
through 8
Travis.
days, tell
Jesus
us
Christ,
all of that
lady.
stuff?
Yeah, I think it was 9 days.
Man.
Okay, 9 days. You have a good memory. For
Horrible
9 days,
creature.
You told us all of that stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, it wasn't based on my memory. Someone told me 9 days.
What? What do you mean? What did you just say? Somebody told you what?
You said I had a good
Me
memory.
too,
and so I
Sammy
trusted you, but
Sparrow.
It wasn't based on my memory. Someone had said I was
It's
on the
so
fence for 9
strange,
days.
isn't it?
That's why I said 9.
So it isn't on. So what you're testifying to isn't necessarily what you know. Then is what you're telling us, right?
It's what I believe.
Well, you just said that it's what somebody told you, right?
Yes.
So, are you testifying based on what something somebody told you instead of what you know?
In that case, yeah. The
Well,
9
no,
days.
not in that case. I'm talking about what you're telling us here today. Are you telling us these things because you know them or because somebody told you?
The things I'm saying right now are because I know them.
Except for the number of days you were on this witness stand, right? That one, somebody told you that one.
Someone told me that one, and it sounded accurate.
And then, so you used that to correct the prosecutor, right? Even though you didn't remember.
Yes.
With regard to that day, you said that all of this
Right, Emily?
stuff.
Oh, my
information,
God.
Whatever you want to call it, was out there and you didn't want it to come out, right?
It wasn't out there. I didn't want it to be out there.
So what you're saying is, I guess, is that you were being a good Samaritan, right? In lying.
Yeah, that's what she said, Juan.
Well, you were saying that you didn't want this stuff to come out about Mr. Alexander.
She was
and
protecting
your
Travis.
relationship with him, right?
That's right.
So you were being a good person, right?
She's being demure again.
Well, do you think that that's an excuse that to not tell the truth, that you wanted to hide information?
No.
So you did hide information in addition to lying, right?
Yes.
But the detective isn't the only person that you lied to, right?
Hi, Allie.
You lied to a lot of people, right?
Everyone.
And there's different reasons that you had for lying to everyone, right?
Yes.
And in fact, one of the people that you lied to was Ryan Burns, right?
Yes.
Ryan Burns is this individual that you had a romantic interest in, right?
Yes.
I hate the way that
In
she
fact,
looks
we were
up
gonna
like
see
she's
whether or not the
thinking and then
spark
she
was
says
there. You
yes.
Went all the way to Utah, right?
That was my goal.
It's comical.
Well, it was your goal, but you made it there, right?
And what makes it so comical is that she's acting.
Yes,
There-
but not for the reason you
she's
stated.
not
So
she's
you
not
went there to go
giving
see
you an
him to see
ounce
if
of
there was any
honesty.
romantic
It's all
interest?
contrived.
Not on June 5th.
Not on June 5th, when you started your trip, part of your trip. So you're saying then that he was an afterthought?
Yeah, he was.
So he was just an alibi then?
Yeah, well, no, not an alibi.
Ooh, there was a little bit of truth.
If he's an afterthought, that means the primary thought that you had when you left Wairika back on June 2nd was to see Travis Alexander then. If Mr. Burns was an afterthought, as you say.
That's not correct.
It
Well,
is
that's what you
correct.
said, right?
No,
Mr.
that's what
Burns
you
was
said.
Mr. Burns
Oh,
was an afterthought,
she-
right?
Don't get brazen with me,
It was an
girl.
afterthought after June 4th.
Okay, so before that, he was a priority thought.
He was the reason for the trip.
So he was the reason for the
Because
trip,
she is
Yes.
a psychopathic
And the
narcissist,
reason for the
Diane.
trip to go see him was to
And
see whether or not there
She
was a romantic
firmly
interest, right?
believed that she would beat
That's why I
this.
planned the
She
trip.
believed it in her
Right.
heart and
That's-
soul.
That's my question. You wanted to see if there was going to be any sparks between you and Mr. Burns, right?
Yes.
And you had not seen him before that date in the sense that you hadn't been.
She is
With him
very
alone,
smug
That's correct.
you
and
hadn't been
very
on a date
important.
with him
She's
before, right?
self-important.
That's right.
You had only done the text messaging, right?
And phone calls and
Well,
emails.
is that a yes or a no, text messaging?
That would be yes.
And with regard to the telephone calls, You had done that, right?
Yes.
And you'd done that instant messaging thing, right?
Why does she look
Can't remember if
up?
that was before or
Why
after
does she
conflict.
look up at the
Well,
cailing? Makes
But
me
you did do
crazy.
that with him, though, right?
Hate
Yes.
you, Jodi
You remember
Arias.
sending him an instant message saying something to the effect, this is a test, before you went out to see him. Remember seeing that?
She
I
went
remember
out to
seeing
see him.
the
He
test
was
that
an
I had.
alibi. Remember?
And
Remember she said, no, I was nowhere
because of
near
this interaction, you
Arizona.
decided to
And
go
and
see
then they
him,
came
right?
up with the gas cans.
And when
So it was,
you got
of
there,
course, he was the
one of the things
alibi.
that you said was that, well, I needed to keep up the facade, right?
It is
That's right.
infuriating, Yvette.
lied
I
about
agree
being
with you
lost, right?
completely.
Yes,
You didn't get lost that day, right?
I did get lost.
Oh, so you did get lost.
She
So it
saw
was
an
simple.
actress look
This
up.
trip to see Mr. Alexander, it was because you got lost.
That's not why.
Well,
Well, they wanted to go see him,
where
girl.
did you get, if you could tell us, because you were lost, where did you get lost, ma'am?
My understanding is it was somewhere in
Not your
Arizona.
understanding. I want you to tell me where you got lost, not what somebody else may have told you.
Objection, Your Honor.
She did, Cinnamon. Absolutely. We're going to look at that. Unless
My
another
understanding
creator
is-
beats
Ma'am,
me
I'm
to
saying
it.
You're not being responsive. I'm asking you to tell me where you drove physically to the point where you got lost.
Oh my
Where did
God,
it start
Zelda.
That you got, where does the beginning of your getting
Oh
lost?
my goodness. Please
start?
find that information. That
Question, she was in the middle of answering and he interrupted.
make a video about it, Zelda, and I'll tell on my channel to come over there. We'll watch it together. That's
Ma'am, when
horrible.
was the first time you realized you
No
were lost?
names, obviously.
When I couldn't power on my phone, it was dark.
Was this before or after you killed Mr. Alexander?
After,
And this is where you pulled off the side of the road, right?
yes,
And then you continued to drive from that point to see Mr. Burns, right?
I just drove at
I
that point.
understand that you say you just
God,
drove,
she's
but from that point
such
on,
a
you did
cartoon
get to speak
character.
to Mr. Burns, right?
Yes,
And in fact, one of the people that, the first person that you actually called once you got your phone charged
Was
Mike McCartney,
Travis.
right?
yes,
And he's somebody that you are very close to, right?
somewhat, yes,
He's a very good friend, right?
yes.
He's an ally, right?
I don't know what you mean by ally.
Someone who will not betray you.
No, he's betrayed me.
So, and you're talking about the fact that he saw somebody else, right? When he was with you, right? Is that what you're talking about, the betrayal?
That's only one of the times he's betrayed me.
So you've never told somebody, for example, like 48 hours that he was somebody that will not betray you.
I did say that on 40 hours.
So which is it? Is he going to betray you or is he not going to betray you? What is it?
Well, hopefully not.
Well, hopefully not means you're not answering the question. You just told us that he did betray you, yet now you're saying that in an interview with 48 hours, you said he would not betray you. So which is it?
I'm going to object to the relevance of any of this.
Well, when I made that statement to 48 hours, it was my belief that he would not.
It was your way of what?
My belief that he would not betray me.
With regard to any issues that were presented at the time that you made the telephone call to him after you killed Mr. Alexander, right?
With regard to that, when I said that in September versus
Right. With
June.
regard to the call, if you told him anything, he wouldn't betray you, right?
The two defense
That's what I
attorneys
said.
are looking at each other like, how in the
And
hell
that's
did
what
we
you
get
believed
involved in
September of
this?
2008, right?
In September 2008, yes.
So you're out there and you try to call Mr. McCartney, and so you say that you're lost, but one of the other things that you say that you do is that you get out of the car, right?
Yes,
And you clean up, right?
yes.
That's because you knew what you had done, right?
I don't remember thinking that.
Well, I'm not
God,
asking
oh
you
my
whether-
God.
whether or not you
So
remember
where did all the
that.
blood
Isn't
come
that the
from,
reason why you
Jodi?
did it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, you knew that you had killed Mr. Alexander at that point, right?
It's hard to describe.
Yes or no? It's a yes or no.
It's hard to listen to you.
It's not really. It's
It
something.
is.
It's not.
So in your mind, back then, when you're on the side of the road, you don't know if you killed him, right? That's what you're saying.
I can't really say it wasn't in my mind, like, it was kind of not there. It's kind of
You
weird.
weren't there, right? What you're saying is you weren't there, right? That's what you just said, right? That you weren't there. That's what you just said, right?
Weren't there
And
in my
so-
head.
And so if you weren't there, though, you were there enough to pick up the phone and call Matthew McCartney, right? You were
Yes.
there enough for that, right?
Yes,
You were there enough to call Ryan Burns, right?
after a while, yes.
You were there enough for that, and you were there enough to make a call to Travis Alexander, weren't you?
Yes,
So you were there for those purposes, but you weren't there to tell me about what you were thinking, though, right? Is that what you're saying?
it depends on the time period.
How about the time when you got out, when you started to wash your hands?
By then, I wasn't thinking that. I just knew something awful had happened because I had blood on my hands and my feet.
And so you
On
knew
your
that those were for Mr.
hands
Alexander,
and
didn't
your
you?
feet. She literally just said she had blood on her hands and her feet. Okay, can y'all explain to me how that is even remotely possible? How is it possible that she shoots a guy, she stabs him 27 times, and then she nearly decapitates him, and she's only got blood on her hands and feet? Wait a minute. When she cut his throat, he was like half in the bedroom and halfway in the hall of the bathroom, right? So she had to have picked him up and drug him back down the hallway and put him in the shower, right? So how is it possible she only has blood on her hands and her feet? Surely she didn't do the whole thing naked. Jump in the shower, get cleaned off. I can't even. It's a horrifying thought, isn't it? It's a horrifying thought. She does look like Carrie at prom. I said that to Bill. I told Bill, I said, "Oh my God, she looks like the girl that was in the Carrie movie, and when they poured blood over her head." Wow, unbelievable, unbelievable.
I think I did, yes.
You think you did, but again, you're telling us you're not sure, right?
I'm not telling you that.
Well, you had blood on your hands,
It
right?
is a nightmare,
And you had been
Marguerite.
driving,
It's
right?
horrific.
Yes,
According to you, you had been at Mr. Alexander's house, right?
yes,
There had been a fight, right?
yes,
And you had done something, right?
yes,
And this doing something had caused Mr. Alexander to bleed, right?
yes.
And so if that's the case and you have blood on your
Oh
hands,
my God.
wouldn't you think
What is wrong with her? Look at watch this. Watch this. Watch her eyes.
driving, right?
Yes,
According to you, you had been at Mr. Alexander's house, right?
yes,
There had been a fight, right?
yes,
And you had done something, right?
yes,
And this doing something had caused Mr. Alexander to bleed, right?
So someone explained to me her purpose for looking up, squinting her eyes, like, did he bleed? Let me think. Did I do something to cause him to bleed? Do you guys remember the sink area? And I believe it's because she shot him in the head and he kind of walked over or maybe crawled over and pulled himself up, because you could see where there had been like a steady stream of blood, going down and kind of puddling there where the fixtures are. Why would she look up like that, like she's trying to remember? That is a perfect example of what I mean by these people that are so theatrical and over dramatic, and they use the intensity of their drama they believe is more convincing to people as they lie. And never forget, these people lie with impunity. They don't believe, how do I almost, they recognize that the majority of people do not lie. They recognize that most people do not lie. And they think that we are stupid because we don't lie. They are used to going through life saying whatever they want or need to say in any situation to get what they want. So she's being overly dramatic in a situation, in a crime where the amount of physical evidence is frankly overwhelming. And she thinks the more dramatic, the more believable she is. The reality is, because we all know the truth, when you shoot a man in the head, you stab him 27 times, and then you cut his jugular, it's gonna be a bloodbath. It's going to be a little bit of blood here and there. There won't be much blood left in his body. It's going to be on the floor and the walls and the ceiling and you. So this was a really good moment to illustrate how they use dramatic lies in the belief that the stupid people that are honest, they're more likely to believe your lies. The more emotional they can be, the more outrageous the lie they believe, the more likely we honest people are to believe them.
Yes.
And so if that's the case and you have blood on your hands, wouldn't you think that the blood came from Mr. Alexander?
I had cuts too, so
God, oh,
So you're
my
thinking
God.
that the cuts could have come from you stabbing him?
I didn't have any recall of stabbing him at that
Well
point
then,
in time.
so you don't have any idea where your cuts come from then, at that point?
No, I had cut myself on June 4th, early in the morning before we went to bed.
So you cut yourself on the glass, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Is this the situation where you're saying that you cut yourself on your right hand, right?
yes,
You're left-handed, right?
I'm both.
You know who you're ambidextrous, is that what you're saying?
Yes, depending on the activity.
Well, do you remember indicating to 48 hours that you're a lefty?
Yes,
So what is it? Are you left or right?
depends on the activity.
And what activity do you write left-handed?
I write with both, but I'm more proficient with my left.
And so with regard to this being out there, so you're out there and you've made these calls, you've got out, and you find your charger, right? Is that when you find the charger?
When I pulled over, yes.
And at some point, you're able to make a telephone call to Mr. Burns, right?
Yes,
And then starts the line to him, right?
yes,
And so at some point, then you drive all the way up to see him, and you get there around 11 o'clock in the morning, right?
I think so, yes.
Well, in between 11 and noon, would that be accurate?
I believe it was before noon.
And after 11, right?
I think so. I wasn't paying attention at the time, but it was late morning.
Okay, and you go up there, you have this meeting, and when you go up
She
there,
reminds me
you're
of
telling us
Snake
that
sticking her
you
tongue out
still
like
don't
that.
know if Mr. Alexander is dead, right? You're telling us, right?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well,
She knew
so
he
you
was
do know
dead.
that.
She drug him to the shower. Of course she knew he was dead.
It's not like, it's like I wasn't accepting it or looking at it in
Well,
my mind.
Acceptance and knowing are two different things. Wouldn't you agree, ma'am?
I was in a strong state of denial.
Ma'am, that's not my question to you. My question is accepting and knowing are two different things. Don't you agree?
Yes. I
And
agree.
so what you're saying is that you weren't accepting it.
You
What that
didn't
means is that
dissociate,
you knew it. You just
Jodi.
didn't want to deal with it. That's what you're saying, right?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well,
I
you're
don't
the
know how
one
to
that
come up with a
talked about
lie
acceptance,
for that.
right? You just said that right now, correct?
That's correct.
And so by acceptance, it means you don't want to deal with it, right?
That's awesome, Zelda.
Well, you're the one that used that word. Why wouldn't you know?
Objection, ask.
Oh.
She remembers so well that she's constructing lies, Sammy Sparrow.
Well,
You're
throwing up your
exactly
hands and
right.
You're saying that your mind wasn't right, but that's not the issue. The issue here is whether or not you knew he was dead. And it appears, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're saying you did know that he was dead.
I believe that I knew he was dead.
Okay, so you knew he was dead. And when you went to see Mr. Burns, you were the same person that you had been before. You were happy, smiling, right?
I was not, but I was trying to.
Thank you,
You're
Sandra.
trying to portray
That's
that
very
somehow
kind
to
of
him,
you.
right?
Thank
Put
you.
up a facade, right?
Yes, him and all my friends.
Pardon?
Him and all my friends.
I'm asking about Mr. Burns, all right? With regard to Mr. Burns, you were trying to put up a facade for him, right?
That's right.
You wanted to pretend that you were happy, right?
Yes.
And the reason that you wanted to pretend that you were happy is because you wanted to see if there was any spark with Mr. Burns, right?
No.
That was the furthest thing from my mind at that point.
Okay,
She
so if
needed an
that's the
alibi.
furthest thing from your mind, then the closest thing in your mind is the fact that you killed Mr. Alexander, right?
Wasn't thinking of it in those terms.
Well, but isn't that sort of what you're telling us now?
It was something to that effect.
And so you go on through the day, and there's this meeting that takes place with Mr. Burns and one of his associates at a restaurant, right?
Yes.
And you follow along, and then after that, after the meeting, you go back to Mr. Burns's place, right?
Yes.
And now it's the afternoon, right?
Yes.
And during the afternoon, when you're with Mr. Burns, you begin to kiss him, right?
Yes.
And that's because you want to put up a facade, right?
I guess that's part of the reason.
Well, no. you
What's
said
the other
when
reason,
you were
Jodi?
correct,
You
that
numbskull.
was the reason you wanted to put up a facade, right?
Objection, this is her testimony.
I don't think so, Nermy.
Man, with regard to Mr. Burns and kissing him.
Yeah,
was the
confusion
reason that you
reigns.
kissed him because you wanted to
That's
put up a
right,
facade.
Diane and Karen.
That was one of the reasons.
All right, and the other reason was that you wanted to see if there was a spark between the two of you, right?
I don't think so. I don't think she gave a damn about a spark. I think she was making a alibi, and I think in good old Jodi Arias fashion, she was going to use sex to get him on her side, so that when it came out that what she had done, then she would have somebody willing to say, no, Jodi had been with me for 2 or 3 days. No, I don't believe not a bit that it was anything to do with love. She just slaughtered a man. She is basking in her greatness. She's feeling awesome about showing Travis who's boss, right? So the last thing she would want to do in this situation would be to go and find another man. She no. She's in the afterglow of complete retribution. Travis violated her by denying her. He violated her when he was going to take another woman on the trip. And she was going to show him that no man was going to throw her away without them also hurting. So she walked out of his apartment probably really afraid, heart pounding. They were coming after her. She was terrified they were going to see her. But the minute she got across state lines, she got cleaned up. Nobody was following her. She believed that she was home free. And so then comes the afterglow. Now she can drive down the road smiling, feeling like, yes, I got mine. Serves him right for having the audacity to make me look bad. No. You're not going to make me look bad, Travis. Don't you know who I am? Right? Once a person like Jodi gets offended, and it doesn't even have to be a real offense. It could be something that she just makes up in her mind. Somebody else says something, and maybe she just decides, oh, they just disrespected me. Forevermore, 3 years later, that person will still be obsessing and trying to figure out a way to stick it to that person that they thought disrespected them. They'll never drop it. So no, Jodi wasn't looking to be with another guy. She wasn't interested in a date. None of those things. She wasn't looking for comfort. None of that. She was feeling very good, empowered, strong. And the behavior between the death of Travis and the time that she was arrested, her behavior shows how good she was feeling. I mean, she was active. She was doing all kinds of fun things. She was meeting people. I mean, life was good for Jodi. No, she was using him. She was using him for an alibi. And she was going to use sex as the tool to get him on her side and control him. Thank you, Emily. Been waiting to see Jodi with you for a few years. Oh, no, that's what. Thank you so much for being here, Emily. I really do appreciate y'all so much. She's incapable of true feelings like love. It's all about getting what she wants. 100%, Karen. People are tools to a person like this. Absolutely. That is where she tossed the gun. My spidey senses say I'm right, and I'm willing to spend dollars on searching there. I am not convinced. I wish to goodness you would find it, Zelda. That would be amazing. All right. It is the script of Satan's behavior and antics. It certainly is, Marguerite. And don't forget, this comedy of errors is happening after a very good man is slaughtered, and his poor family is being exposed to her ridiculous lies. It's just a miscarriage. It's terrible.
That's not right.
But you did kiss him though, right?
Yes, I did.
Knowing that Mr. Alexander was dead, right?
I guess so.
Well, no, we don't want you to guess. We want you to know. And if you don't know, you can tell me that. Did you just tell me previously that you knew that Mr. Alexander was dead?
It's hard to explain.
It's because it's a
Now,
lie,
what's hard to
Jodi.
explain about a person breathing or not breathing? What is so difficult? Why is that?
She wants everybody to believe that she dissociated, but she doesn't know what dissociation is like.
Okay, so because you've never killed anyone before, then you're having a problem deciding whether or not the person is dead, right?
I'm having a hard time describing what my state of mind was during that time.
If you hadn't killed anybody before and you didn't know if he was dead, then why did you just leave him to die?
Objection is irrelevant.
I don't think I did that.
Well, sure, you just told us that you'd never killed anybody before and you didn't know. So what you're telling us is that you left them to die, didn't you?
I don't believe that.
Okay, so then you did know he was dead. Can't have it both ways. Which one is it?
Objection to our argument. She's already explained her state of mind. She's not a psychologist.
Sustained as to the question, rephrase.
At the time you were kissing Mr. Burns' lips, did you know he was dead, yes or no? And by he, I mean Mr. Alexander.
You should ask and answer, Judge.
Overruled.
I think I did.
Okay? And so, but yet you continue kissing Mr. Burns anyway, right?
I don't know.
You mean you don't remember him that you guys were continually making out, or not continually, but were making out before you went out for the evening?
I don't remember making out with him before we went out for the evening.
But you were kissing him, whatever that means, right?
We kissed.
Then you went to this training that was in the evening, correct?
It wasn't a training, it was a business briefing.
It was a briefing in the evening, right?
Yes,
And it was at a college, I believe, correct?
I don't remember.
And is that when you drove with Leslie Udy or not?
I don't remember. I think I might have followed Ryan to the place where the meeting was.
And when you went to this place, that's where you met up with Leslie Udy, right?
Yes,
And then after that, there was a meeting where you guys went to Chili's, right?
I'm not sure what restaurant it was.
All right, so you went to a restaurant, correct?
That's correct.
And when you went to this restaurant, before you went in, you were talking to Leslie Udy, right? In the car.
It was either before we went in or after, but at one point we were in the parking lot discussing things.
And you talked to her for about an hour, right?
I don't remember how long.
It was not 5 minutes, it was longer than 5 minutes,
It
right?
was longer than 5 minutes.
And during that time, that's when you told her that you looked forward to the future when your kids, those that you were going to have, and Mr. Alexander's kids could play together at PPL meetings, right?
Yes,
That was a lie. Wasn't it?
Objection, Your Honor. This is what she was hoping. It's not a definitive fact.
can you please restate the question?
You lied to Leslie Udy when you told her that it was your hope that your kids and Mr. Alexander's kids played together at PPL events.
No, that was a hope of mine.
Pardon?
That was a hope of mine.
Oh, so you're saying that you thought he was alive at that time then, for you to have that hope?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, if you're saying that and you know he's dead, why are you lying to her?
I had that hope.
How can you say, as you sit here today, ma'am, that that was your hope when you knew he was dead? You can't have it both ways.
Objection, Your Honor. This characterizes testimony.
It was a hope of mine. And the fact that he had died didn't change my hope. It just made that hope unrealistic.
Oh, so the way you're saying now is the way you phrased it to her was that you hoped that your kids could play with his kids, not that that's what you wanted. Is that what you're saying now?
Objection. This characterizes her testimony again.
That's not what was said, actually.
Well, if you don't know what was said, then why are you telling me that you said hope? That you hoped?
I didn't say I don't know what was said.
Pardon?
I didn't say I don't know what was said.
Well, did you use the word hope?
I might have used the word hope.
And if that's the case, if you used the word hope, then what you're telling us is that that was your hope, even though he was dead, right?
That was a hope of mine.
Don't you think that that's a lie, knowing what you knew at the time?
No, because I'm just stating a wish that I had.
Oh, so that was your wish even though you had killed him.
Yes, it was my wish.
And the other thing that you told her was that you and he were great friends, right?
Yes,
And you never mentioned anything about what happened at his house, did you?
that's right.
That was omitting important information, wasn't it?
Yes,
Ma'am, do you know somebody by the name of Mark Udy?
yes,
He was there that night at that restaurant, wasn't he?
I believe he was.
And in fact, he sat next to you, didn't he?
I think so, yes.
So it's your testimony that you did not, knowing that he was there that night, so is it your testimony that you did not have any cuts to your left hand?
I had cuts on my right hand for sure, and I don't remember about my left.
So it could be then that you did have cuts on your left hand, right? Correct?
It could be, but I didn't have Band-Aids on my left hand.
I'm not asking you about Band-Aids. Maybe that's the problem here. I'm asking whether or not you had cuts on your left hand.
I don't recall. I remember my right hand was cut.
So, but it could be that you did, right?
Possibly.
And Mr. Judy was sitting right next to you, right?
Yes.
And because you were eating, he was in a position to see your hands, right?
Overruled.
I would think so.
Pardon?
I would think so.
Right, because your hands were above the table, right?
Yes.
You know whether or not you had gauze on your cuts.
No, they were Band-Aids
So you're saying you had Band-Aids on your cuts, right?
on my right hand.
Okay? But you don't remember whether or not you had any Band-Aids on your left hand, right?
I did not have Band-Aids on my left hand.
You just may have had cuts. Is that what you're saying?
If I did, I don't remember, but I guess it's possible.
Well, you keep saying that it's possible. Why would you say now that it's possible that you would have cuts on your left hand? What makes you think that you might have cuts on your left hand?
Nothing makes me think that.
Well, then why are you saying it's possible? Aren't you really telling me that you didn't have any cuts on your left hand?
Not that I remember.
Okay, not that you remember means there's the possibility that it could be, right?
That's what I'm saying.
So there is a possibility that it could be. You don't remember. So if somebody else says that there may be, you wouldn't have any reason to quibble with that.
Objection, argument, proper question.
Overruled.
I don't know.
And you don't know because you don't.
Marguerite.
I don't know because I didn't have Band-Aids on my left. I had them on my right.
Now, one of the other things that happened after that is that at some point you then returned back to Mr. Burns' home, right?
Yes.
And you return back to Mr. Burns' house and you guys go to sleep, right?
Yes.
You set your clock, or the clock is set so that you can get up, right?
Yes.
You need to get back to work, right?
Yes.
And you need to get back to work. Margaritaville?
No.
You never worked at Margaritaville at that time, right?
I don't know that there's any place called Margaritaville, so no.
So the answer is no, right?
That's right.
And so it's also true that if you broke a glass at work and you cut your hand, it wouldn't have been at a place called Margaritaville, right?
That's right.
Once you're there with Mr. Burns, you do wake up at some point, right?
Yes.
There's a movie that you guys were watching at some point.
God, it's so hard to watch her being so demure and shy.
Right? You started to kiss him, didn't you?
Not passionate, yes, kissing.
You were what?
Not passionate, but yes, kissing.
And at some point, isn't it true that you quote unquote adjusted him?
I helped him adjust himself.
Okay, but if you helped him adjust himself, there was some adjusting that was going on, right?
Good Lord.
And that means that you moved his buttocks, is what we're talking about, right?
No.
Didn't you move his body then so that his body would be more available to yours?
No.
You didn't get on top of him and grind on top of him with your clothing on.
No.
That's not anything that you did, right?
I did not grind that guy.
You didn't, perhaps the Mormons.
I did not have sex with that woman.
You and Mr. Alexander did this grinding, didn't you?
Yes.
And that means something in your relationship, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Well, you just said that you and Mr. Alexander did this, right?
Yes, I did.
And that meant that your genitalia rubbed against each other, right?
Yes.
So what you're saying is that your genitalia did not rub against Mr. Burns' genitalia, correct?
That's correct.
But you did get on top of him, right? Around the waist area.
No, I got off of him. I fell asleep on top of him.
And no, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking whether or not while you were kissing him, you got on top of his waist area. That's what I'm asking.
I think I was laying next to him.
you keep saying think. I want you to tell me whether or not you got on top of Mr. Burns and placed your genitalia, where it would be, I know you were clothed, on top of his. That's what I'm asking.
No, I got off from being on top of him.
So if you got off from being on top of him, at some point you had to be on top of him then, right?
Yes,
And so you were on top of his genitalia with your body. Part of your body was on top of his, right?
no, I was on top of his stomach.
Okay, and was, what you're saying is you were on
Auntie.
top of his stomach with your legs spread or not?
I don't recall. We were in the love sack.
Pardon? I know you were in the love sack, but I'm asking whether or not you were straddling his stomach area.
I think I might have been.
Okay? You say you think you might have been, which means really nothing because you're not admitting to anything.
That's
Is it
right.
true that you were straddling his midsection?
Objection, ask and answer. It's been the
Sustained.
third time.
Man, and during that time, man,
Diane,
You were
she's
on
just
top
an
of him. There was some kissing
abomination.
that was going on,
She's
right?
just
No, it was
she's
sleeping.
just a
But
narcissistic
as soon as you woke
psychopath
up, you
that
kissed him,
just
right?
uses anyone and everyone
Not
that's
as soon as I woke
unfortunate
up.
enough to cross
Some
paths with
point
her.
thereafter, you kissed him, right?
Before I left, yes.
So you're saying that there was no romantic.
You know, these people are fairly easy to see if you're around them for very long, because you'll begin to notice that they don't keep the same people in their lives. They seem to go through people very quickly, right? There's always a new best friend. Or it seems like there's a new hobby, but it's always connected to like a new friend. So, and the reason is because they use someone up until they can't take it anymore. And then they get dumped and they go look for somebody else. And that's what she had been focused on Travis. She finished him off for having the audacity to deny her. And, you know, poor Ryan was going to be the next. So, you know, congratulations on, you know, dodging that bullet, sir.
Kissing that went on is what you're telling me, right?
That's not what I'm saying.
So there was romantic kissing that went on.
Yes.
When did this romantic kissing take place?
I think it started first in the afternoon and then in the evening, or I guess it would be early morning on the 5th or the 6th. But
And he
Right.
also placed his hands between your legs, right? Some point.
not that I recall.
But that means that you were here when he testified, right?
Yes.
So it could be that he did place his hands between your legs, right?
No, could be that he was full of crap. He didn't go there.
So you are saying that Mr. Burns is full of crap.
When he said he got near my vaginal area, absolutely.
So, and you're the same person that's telling us that he's full of crap that has lied to him, right?
Yes.
That has lied to Leslie Beauty, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That has lied to Detective Flores on 2 occasions, right?
Yes.
And to continue this litany of lies, it isn't restricted to Utah. You also lied to people in Arizona, didn't you?
Yes. Everyone.
Right. And yet you're telling us somebody else is full of crap, right?
When it comes to that, yes.
So the answer is yes.
I said yes.
And so after this happened, you went back to Wairika, correct? Drove back.
Yes.
And you drove back to Wairika and you didn't tell anybody anything that had happened, right?
You mean at Travis's house?
Yes, at Travis's house.
That's correct.
One of the things that ended up happening, though, is that you then received a call on June 10th of 2008 in the early morning hours, right?
Yes.
And you received that call from an individual by the name of Daniel Freeman, didn't you?
Yes.
He's the same individual that testified here today, not today, but at some point during these proceedings, right?
Yes.
And he was telling you about Mr. Alexander, right?
Yes.
And you lied to him, right?
I don't know, I guess.
Well, no, we don't want you to guess, man. You did lie to him, didn't you?
I'm trying to recall our conversation.
Well, did you tell him I'm the person who killed him? You didn't do that.
No, I didn't.
You pretended you didn't know anything about it, right?
I don't remember. He just told me.
I know what he just told you. I want to know whether or not
Nermy's
told
saying,
him
I hate
that
this
you
girl.
knew that something had happened to Mr. Alexander on June 4th of 2008. Did you tell him that?
No.
You omitted that, right?
Yes.
Even though he was calling you to talk to you about Mr. Alexander, right?
Yes.
The conversation allowed for that sort of response from you, right?
Yes.
But you didn't do it. Instead, you kept it to yourself, right?
Yes.
He was upset when he called you, right?
Sustained.
Heard his voice, right?
Yes.
And you could tell from his voice whether or not he was upset. You've been around him before, hadn't you?
Yes.
You'd been around him many times going to his house for Sunday dinner, right?
Yes.
And you've also been around him when he'd been around with his family, right?
Yes.
With his sister Desiree, right?
Yes.
Had gone up to Sedona with you, right?
Yes.
Had gone up to the Grand Canyon with you, right?
Yes.
Had gone up to the Havasupai Falls, right?
Yes.
You had significant contact with him, right?
Yes.
And in fact, at some point, you even thought that he liked you, right?
Yes.
And in fact, you wrote that in your journal, right?
Yes.
So you could tell from his tone of voice that he was upset.
I've never heard him upset in my life, actually.
Okay, so that tone of voice that he displayed to you was foreign to you.
It was gentle, the way he was talking.
All right, so it was a gentle tone of voice. And in this gentle tone of voice, you never told him that you were responsible for the killing of Mr. Alexander, were you?
No, I did not.
You could have, though, right?
Yes.
He was a pretty close friend, right?
Yes.
And instead, what you chose to do is you chose to perpetuate the lie, right?
Yes.
You then started to call a religious person, didn't you?
Yes.
You called somebody by the name of Bishop Layton, right?
Yes.
And you called him and you asked him whether or not Mr. Alexander was dead, right?
I didn't think I asked him that.
Well, isn't that the topic of the conversation, Mr. Alexander's death?
Yes.
And during this time, you're calling as the grieving ex-girlfriend, right? Somebody who cares.
I was calling as a friend.
Okay, if you're calling as a friend, why are you calling if you already know what happened to Mr. Alexander other than to lie about it?
There were many things I didn't know.
Oh, so you just wanted to get information about the death so you could use it later to lie about it? Is that what it is?
I just called because I wanted to know what he knew.
And the reason you wanted to know what he knew was so that you could see whether or not anybody was on to you, right?
Yes, partially.
And it wasn't like you cared about Mr. Alexander. It was you just wanted to see what it was that you needed to do to make sure that you weren't charged with a crime, right?
Sustained.
Ma'am, you wanted to see what he knew is what you told us, right?
Yes.
What purpose would there be for that information, knowing what he knows about it, other than to benefit you?
The fact that there was a big memory block was bothering me.
I'm not asking you if a memory block was bothering you.
You asked
Am
the
I?
reason. What other reason?
Am I asking you if a memory block was bothering you? Am I asking you if a memory block was bothering you?
No.
I was asking you about the information that you were trying to get and what you were going to do with it, right?
No, that's not what you were asking me.
Man, isn't it true that I asked you the purpose for calling Bishop Layton, right?
No.
I asked you that. Why did you call Bishop Layton? Didn't I ask you that?
Prior, yes.
Well, this is part of the same conversation, isn't it?
Yes.
And you do agree that you called Bishop Layton, right?
Yes.
In the middle of the night, right?
Yes.
3 a.m., I think, right?
Yeah, it was late.
And you called Bishop Layton and you spoke to him because you wanted to get information about what he knew about the investigation, right?
That was part of it.
Yes, that part. Let's talk about that part. The part that you wanted to know about the investigation, that was going to help you should something come of this, right?
Objection.
That wasn't my thought, really.
That wasn't your thought, then why do you even want to know about it?
I couldn't remember much or anything from that day.
Well, you remembered that you had been there, didn't you?
Yes,
You remembered that there had been this confrontation, right?
I do remember that.
Yes, and you remember that you didn't call 911, right?
Yes.
So why is it that you even need to know about the investigation since you have firsthand knowledge? Why are you asking for somebody who has secondhand knowledge?
Okay. This is getting very tiresome, right? And look, I'm going to tell y'all, one of the reasons that I decided that I wanted to go ahead and do this is you're getting a view, I think, into the future. I think this is what we're going to see in the whole Barry Morphew situation. I believe they're going to put him on the stand. And I have some reasons for believing that. And one of those reasons may be that he demands it, right? So, because you got to remember, he's Barry Morphew. He's so important. Don't you know that? So, this pattern of questioning or the pattern of answering is forcing Juan Martinez to get her to agree to each individual word that is going to be in the real question that he wants an answer to. If he just outright asks a question, she's going to do her little, shuck and jive is what we call it in Texas or in the South. Right? A little shuck and jive where you don't exactly admit to something and then you jump over to a completely unrelated topic and make it seem similar and then you're off the main topic. So he's learned now, you're going to have to get her pinned down on everything. And then once she doesn't have any wiggle room, then you can ask your question. The net effect for people like me and you that we haven't committed all of the eyewitness and all the testimony and all the forensic, evaluation and testing. We haven't committed all of that to memory in the way that, Juan and his investigator have. But they know it. We listen to this and we just think, good Lord, this is so confusing. What are they even talking about? But it'll all go to the closing arguments once he gets her to agree to these very specific questions that he has. But it's taking him at least 30 minutes to get an answer to what his real question is, right? And so it is exhausting. She was on the witness stand for weeks. I mean, well, I wish I could. Does anybody remember exactly how long she was on the witness stand? It was unbelievable. It was crazy. There was a great deal of information that was put out when it was the defense had her up there on direct questioning. There was so much extraneous information, stories that had nothing to do with the crime at hand, right? All of that goes together to create confusion and turmoil in the heads of the jurors. So the end amount then turns it now for Juan. When he's going through this questioning, he's planning out, his cross-examination. He's looking at the final, what he hopes will be the final instruction to the jury. The questions that he lays out to get the answers to has to be tied to his closing arguments. And that is going to, hopefully, he will then give them in the closing arguments all the information they need to address each one of the charges and the judges what he believes the jury instructions will be, right? For the defense, adding a great deal of information that's really not important or really not pertinent to the final question. When you're answering questions, trying to throw the prosecutor off by saying things like, which one? What do you mean? Which date? What time? For the jury, they're listening to this and their heads are just going in circles. They're just thinking, what in the hell is she talking about? Right? So he, this was a shocking, horrific crime. And for all of her theatrics and all of the lying and all of the manipulation that you see on the stand, the amount of physical evidence against her was simply overwhelming. I think the net effect of her getting on a stand and acting like this, I think that helped convict her. I think when she says things like, well, I had a little blood on my hands and my feet, and so I don't really remember, but I kind of remember that, I got out and I washed my hands and my feet, but I don't really remember. I don't really know what I did until I was in the love sack. Yeah. Okay, people hear that and they've heard the direct testimony by scientists and detectives saying this man did not have an ounce of blood left in his body because he was basically murdered 3 times, right? That her stupid ninja story, all of the things that she did, to then to be such a monster, but then get up on the stand and behave in this fashion. Look, you know who me and you are? Me and you, we are the jury pool, right? Me and you are the jury pool. And so in exactly the same way that you and I watch Jodi and laugh and feel like we want to, choke her and just roll our eyes and think this woman is just insane, so do the jury members. And so that's something you got to think about with this upcoming Barry Morphew trial. If we are the jury pool, if the people that are going to be chosen to be on his jury are anything like us, then how would they respond to what we've heard so far? How are they going to respond to, I go out and I shoot the little chipmunks? How do you think they're going to respond to that? Just like me and you responded to that. We're going to go, what? You're shooting a little chipmunk with a gun? Really? Because the majority of people want to take, breadcrumbs or corn out to the little chipmunks to try to entice them to come closer, right? We're the jury pool. So they're going to be people on that jury. They're going to hear this about shooting little chipmunks. And someone in that jury pool is going to go, well, you son of a bitch. What? Why in the world would this guy do that? Try this one on for size. How about taking a tranquilizer dart and tranquilizing a big buck deer that came up into your yard to eat, so that you could then, while the deer is asleep, you could then saw off the antlers, leaving the deer, might I say, to be killed when they go into rut, because the poor deer is not going to have any way to defend himself when the other male deers begin to rut. So it's one of the most cruel things to do to physically saw off the rack of a deer. Absolutely cruel. It would have been more humane to shoot the deer, right? No. I don't believe for a minute, Cinnamon, that he sawed off the antlers. I don't believe that. Not a bit. None. Zero. Where that guy lives, there won't be a soul that would ever know that he shot a deer that came up on his property. I guarantee you that Mr. Barry Morphew, I guarantee you he does not abide by the hunting season. I guarantee you that. No, he was trying to account for evidence as it was discovered. That's why he came up with these ludicrous lies, just like Jodi's lies. Right? So that is one saving grace, is the jury pool is us, and they're going to have to sit and listen to these ridiculous stories that Barry himself came out with. And I think it's going to fall on deaf ears. I really do. Oh, and then there'll be that, Diane. I mean, people, even if you're a hunter and you hear a guy say that he sawed off the antlers of a big, buck deer, that even if you're a hunter, you're going to hear that and you're going to think, damn, you sick bastard. Why would you do that to him? If you want the rat that bad, you're gonna have to go ahead and kill him. Otherwise, he's gonna die a really painful death when another buck gets a hold of him. In the 80s in Colorado near Denver, chipmunks are protected even though the chipmunks were living near a hazardous waste dump and very full of radiation. My cousin drove a semi burying the waste. Interesting. I don't think he ever shot any chipmunks, Marguerite. I think it was a lie. He said that he came up with that lie when they were asking him about why his cell phone showed that he was running around outside the house at the same time that Suzanne's lover was messaging her. No, they know, Zelda. Just like his lie about why he turned left instead of turning right the morning he left. His lie was, oh, well, I saw an elk and he was dragging a horn and I wanted to follow him and see, where he might drop it. Well, everybody knows that the elk dropped their horns like 4 weeks before, or 4 months before that. So he was thinking fast on his feet, but what he said was biologically wrong. At that time in May, they would have already dropped their rack and started on new set. And thank you, Zelda. You shoot one chipmunk, that's all you're going to shoot, right? Why? Because they're going to run. And they're fast and they're little bitty. Yeah. No, he told a lot. He told a lot of whoppers. He did. So, all right, people. So we will continue with her cross-examination, but I think we've been here for quite a while today. It's been a long video, but you guys have been troopers. Y'all have stuck it out, haven't you? All right. Not very Christian of Barry to be cruel to the animals. That's what I think of that. Absolutely. All right. Are they going to change the venue for his trial? The next hearing is Tuesday, February the 1st. Am I right about that? Let me check my calendar. Tuesday, February 1st. They have a hearing Tuesday, February the 1st, where change venue will be discussed. This request for change of venue was brought by the defense Therefore, I believe they will absolutely get it. Mr. I'm so full of shit Drama Lama, I think he's going to give the defense whatever they want. I kind of feel like the fix is in. It's kind of what I feel like. All right. Okay, everybody, I need to get going and get some stuff done today. And I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for hanging out with me while we watch this very interesting person who is also a horrible, sadistic murderer. I'll be back later and we'll, let's see, what did I want to do with my next one? We may talk about Barry. I may do more on the whole Barry thing, but we'll see. All right. Okay. Thank y'all so much. I hope you'll either hit a thumbs up or thumbs down, leave a comment, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, feel free to share on your social media, and I will return for another day. All right. I feel David Dodson's going to be arrested soon. You know what? My fingers are crossed, Cinnamon. My fingers are crossed. Okay. Thanks y'all so much. I'll talk to you again.